Hi, everybody, and welcome to TalentED, the podcast where we're diving into the world of education, leadership, and talent acquisition. I'm your host, Dr. Skanson, and today we have a very special guest with us, Jack Stahlmann. Welcome, Jack. Jack Stahlmann's journey is as diverse as it is inspiring. With a background in Los Angeles as actor, producer, director, and yes, even a waiter, Jack has launched his own production company, created films with international success, worked as an assistant director for the Margaret Cho stand-up show, Cho Revolution. You might also recognize him from his co-star role on the CBS drama Cold Case and his appearance on Days of Our Lives. He is a heartthrob. Jack graduated with honors from DePauw University and has been a regular contributor to HuffPost. And for the last decade, he's been captivating audiences around the world, delivering actionable takeaways and make a real difference in the workplace. So Jack, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're talking to us from today?
Well, it's a thrill to be here, and thank you very much. Those were very nice words that I sort of wrote about myself. But it's I'm talking to you from St. Paul, Minnesota. It's home sweet home for me. I grew up here. Obviously did the Los Angeles thing for a while, and I'm back. Like it sucks us all back in, right? Like, home is always home. So I'm here in the Stahlmann Studios, aka my basement, where I do a lot of my virtual work, and yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Jack. I've had the chance to watch you in action and talk. You have some really amazing stories that you talk about, and it was so fun to listen to you. One of the things that you kind of talked about was this idea of intangible, the intangible it. Um, what is that, and why might it be important in an educational setting?
Yeah, I think in an educational setting, almost more than anywhere else, it's the most important. So what the intangible it is this thing that people have in your life. And for those of you watching, listening, you probably can think of somebody in your life right now who has this magnetic it thing that you've always been drawn to, and you can never really put your finger on what exactly that is. And if you're like me, you probably have always thought, well, it can't be taught. You either have it or you don't have it, that magnetic thing. And then I had this 13-second encounter with George Clooney, in which I realized he was a lot cooler than me. Now that is something I should have known beforehand, but when
Well,
you
it's in
see,
question. I mean, it's to be determined, right?
that's right, that's right. We all have. I overestimate myself a lot of times in my mind, right? And so I just think, oh, then once you're confronted with the Clune and breathing some of his air, which I think the technical term is clunogen.
Mm-hmm.
When you get that in your lungs and you realize he's just got this thing, this intangible it is what I call it, this it factor, this intangible it. And so after I had this encounter with him, it was very exciting, very exhilarating. And then I realized I kind of came down to earth really quickly after that because I was jealous of that. I mean, yes, I wanted that as an
Mm-hmm.
actor. I mean, I just got done doing 45 seconds on Cold Case. Things were happening for
Yeah.
me, but
Up and
I
up.
but I really wanted it even as a human. Like what is that it thing? I started thinking of people in my life who have it, and in 4.5 steps, I take audiences through the journey of what
Mm-hmm.
I learned in 13 seconds with George. And it's
And it's a fun journey. It is a fun journey. I've seen it. I've been there. It does make you think.
yeah, yeah, and the application to so I tell a lot of Hollywood stories. So for me, that's kind of my hook, right? Like your audience is going to be entertained by, I tell a lot of funny, some jokes, it's all self-deprecating towards me. So it's a fun ride that way. But there is this real takeaway of what is that it thing, and why is that important in the education setting? Well, if I really think back to my educational upbringing,
Hmm.
I don't remember fifth grade math, but I remember, Mrs. Sandberg.
Hmm.
And and I don't remember my show choir moves in middle school. Okay, I remember some of them,
So
right? My
how do you
wife
forget
asked.
jazz hands?
Yes, yes. But I remember Miss McCormick, and I don't remember what I had for lunch every day, but I remember Pat, who was the lunch, well, like we called them then lunch ladies, right? But that the impact that these people had has stayed with me. Now I'm 40, bum,
Ba-bum.
and it's still in my mind of what these people did, and I obviously the educational component, the actual learning is the most important piece,
Hmm.
but the that all kind of leaves us, unless we're really specialists in something. But the magic of the touch that you have in the educational setting, especially at such an impressionable age, I just remember at each step of my life thinking, okay, when I was that math teacher that I was talking about in elementary school, I want to do math. Then that middle school teacher who did show choir, oh, I think I want to be an actor. Like that changed the whole
Yeah.
trajectory of my life. And then bringing that to the schools in a way that I think sort of what makes me unique is certainly if you have an educational background, you're an educational specialist, but a lot of times those messages go just to the teachers and we forget about the other pieces when
Right.
a custodian can have just as big of an impact in
Same.
the memory of your school experience as anybody else. And so that's what my message really brings is it doesn't matter what our role is if we can create that magic, for the kids we encounter. Well, first of all, it just makes our day-to-day lives easier because people will kind of want to be around that magic, right? That's the idea. But then the long-lasting impact that we can have, where I sit back and think of the great teachers that I had along the way, and that's what it really is.
Mm. Well, I love that you use the word experience because as kids go through school and students go through school, it is an experience and we want it to be memorable. And, unfortunately for some of our students, it's not a great experience. It's not something they want to remember. But I love what you do and how you talk about it in that the magic of your talk and your information is about how do you make that intangible tangible. How do you really think about those steps to get there? You tell stories about the intangible it. um, Give me just a snippet of like practical steps that educators could take to develop that intangible it. We're not giving away the farm here, but um, just give us a snippet of something that give me one thing that they could do.
Well, I talk a lot about something I call the connect. I kind of have little kitschy phrases for every step along the way. And the connect is when we encounter someone and then we walk away, what is it that's in their minds that what's is there a stamp that we've left behind? And now
Hmm.
this can be as simple as like some people wear like a power color or a brand of shoe or their email signature says something unique about them or
Hmm.
your Zoom background on virtual days. What does that say about you as an educator? Just there are lots of different ways we can create a little connect. And I'll tell one story if we've got a little time about kind of a clear-cut example. I was, when I was in my 20s, and I was a single guy. My wife's not within earshot, so we're good. Um, I was competing against handsome men at the clubs who've
Hmm.
done,
Hmm.
have done pec work that I have not done.
Yeah.
And what they could do is they would wear. So I do tell this story on stage, and when I do, I'll pick somebody out of the audience to kind of jab at him a little bit, and also I pretend that I knew this guy from the clubs in my 20s. And what he could do is wear a deep V, is what I call it, right? He would wear a button up like this, but just one button, let the rest hang out.
Uh-huh.
It's a little tight too. It was a medium. And I can't compete with that. So what I would wear these goofy t-shirts to the bar. And one night I was wearing this Dolly Parton t-shirt, glorious, beautiful shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm having a conversation with a gal who's wearing a Burberry scarf, and I thought it was going well, but towards the end of the night, she gave me the brush. It's fine. It's a move I was pretty familiar with.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next morning, I got an email from a friend of mine who was not at the bar with us, and that's an important detail here. This friend who emailed me was not hanging out with us that night, and the email just said hubba hubba, and then there was a link to Craigslist missed connections. Now, are you familiar with Craigslist missed connections
I
at
am
all?
not. I am
Yeah,
not.
so take the creepiness that Craigslist already is, and then go ahead and crank her up a notch
Oh,
for Craigslist missed connection. It's a place,
I
it's a
know what I'm
place where
doing the rest of the day.
yeah, the posts are hilarious because it's a place where people can just post. Maybe you walked by somebody or you had a brief conversation, you didn't get their name. You can post and say, "Did you feel this connection?" And the posts really are high entertainment. And I was a little skeptical when I got this link, but I figured I could risk a virus because I
Uh-huh.
had an older computer. So I clicked on it, pops open, and it says, "Dear Guy in Dolly Parton t-shirt. It's me, girl, in Burberry scarf." And so I thought to myself at that moment, I'm like, my goodness, my connect is accidentally so strong that a friend of mine who was not even there that night at the
Uh-huh.
bar with us knew that it was me. So I called up my friend. I said, "How did you know this was me?" And she says, "Jack, you're the only straight guy in the five-state area with a Dolly Parton t-shirt. This had to be you." And I said, "Okay, quick follow-up though. What were you doing on Craigslist Misconnection?" And I never really got the answer there. But of course, the point that it's demonstrating is that my connect was accidentally so strong that there was somebody who was reading this on the internet, that just
Right.
knew when she read that description that it was me. So are there ways we can sort of manufacture now for George Clooney that work is already done for him, right? Like he's a superstar. That's why we connect to him. The rest of us have to work a little bit, but what's fun about the connect piece is that it should be organic to whoever you are. Like I just saw the Dolly Parton vintage t-shirt at a thrift store and thought it was funny. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
put it on. And I just like to do goofy stuff like that. And so that then you immediately know that that's my brand. So maybe it's a sports team that you like that you can
Mm-hmm.
you can hook in. There's lots of different ways that we
There's
can
always
bring
something.
ourselves to the
I love that.
educational environment. We have to do the work. I'm not sugarcoating anything here. We have to do the work, but there's a million ways we can make it fun, not just for our students, but for ourselves, right? To entertain ourselves. So
Uh, Jack, I cannot wait for the screenplay to come out of what did you call it? Dolly, hey, Dolly Parton, it's Burberry Scarf.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it could be a book. It could, I mean, the potential is limitless
I
here.
mean, if Nicholas Sparks is watching this,
Uh-huh.
there's a price. There's a price, I can tell
There's a price.
you.
Created in the basement in St. Paul. It's sitting there waiting
It's
for
where
the
the
right,
magic happens.
it's waiting for the right production studio to pick it up. Um, let's talk a little bit more about Hollywood. I mean, you tell stories of your acting days in Hollywood, and you might say that Hollywood feels like a far leap from the field of education, but I know that there's some valid stories here. What kind of lessons could you learn? What educators learn from you in your time in Hollywood?
Yeah, so a lot of the stories that I have, really aren't about me as much as they are the encounters I had with, the George Clooney, and then I have a Arnold Schwarzenegger story and Winnie Cooper from the Wonder Years for people of a certain age. That
Mm-hmm.
kind of
I'm
hits
there.
home.
I'm there, Jack.
And so what I just discovered when I got into the field of speaking, because that I think everybody who wants to get into this field to connect with people, you think to yourself, well, what stories do I really have to share, and how do they play out in the school space? Well, the way we interact with people at an audition is the exact same way we interact with people in our classrooms. There's somebody in the front of the room, we're feeling the pressure. There's the coaching element plays over too. I have some stories of my acting classes and other things like that. And so really the human element of all of that really ties in exactly with what we're doing when we interact with students, and even when we interact with our peers. All the pieces sort of hit the same way.
Mm,
So that's the way I sort of come in at it. And so my whole thing is, um, without being too flippant about it, I'm not necessarily teaching anything that people don't already know somewhere in the depths of their
mm-hmm.
mind. What I'm doing is unearthing the passion that we had and reminding people of why we got into this job in the first place, right? We got
Right.
into it for these really fun and exhilarating experiences, the same way you have these encounters with actors in these really fun ways. And so just to um, kind of put a little tap on that nerve
Uh,
again, to kind of
yeah,
just
I
get
love
people
it.
going again. So that's the way I tie it all in.
Well, I mean, I have not met a person who does not have a passion. Even if at first glance, if you think they are boring as beige, right? Somewhere in there, they have something they're super passionate about. And
Yeah.
this is really about just letting it surface and being okay with that.
Yeah, and sometimes we judge ourselves too about what that passion is, right? Like, I was listening recently to the radio, and a video game show came on. Video game experts. Now, I'm not a video gamer at all, but their level of expertise
Yeah,
on the knowledge that they had on these video games, and it was on our sports network here for some reason. But anyway, the level that they had, I was just like drawn in. And so some of that is like, oh, I'm a gardener. I'm not sure how that'll hit with kids. I'm like, give it a shot. I mean,
yeah.
show them your passion. Once somebody sees, it's contagious. When somebody sees somebody be excited about something, then somebody else wants to, and it's just bring
Mm,
it, try it. I mean, that's the best I can say. And that, in fact, matter of fact, that's a huge overarching thing for me. So we talked about the intangible it, which is a topic I speak on, but overall, my brand is called Don't Flinch.
mm-hmm,
I'm the Don't Flinch guy. And the origin of that was I had an acting teacher who, whenever anybody did a scene that was really good, and maybe they weren't working professionally as much as they should be, he would sit them down in the chair and he said, "That was great. Why aren't you working more?" And then they'd, feel the problem, I'm doing this and that. And he's like, "Are you flinching? Are you
mm-hmm,
flinching? Because don't flinch. You got to just go and do it." And that's the message that I truly want people to take away. No matter what topic I come in and speak on, I always mention the don't flinch element, because every
mm-hmm,
success story starts with one of those. If
mm-hmm,
you love your job and education, there was a moment you applied. Like there was a
mm-hmm,
moment, there was a don't flinch moment. If you love your wife, there's a moment you asked her on a first date. If you could tolerate your husband, there's a moment you said, "This is fine," right?
mm-hmm.
Like there's
Right.
all of those have the same thing. There's a don't flinch moment in which you went for it.
Jack, I do have a confession. After I watched you speak, it was maybe a week or two afterwards, and I was in the car with my 14-year-old son, and I used the don't flinch moment with him.
Really?
Because I will tell you what, I can't disclose all the details, but he had a flinch moment, and he had a chance to, how would you say it, be smooth, and he flinched. He flinched. So
Okay.
I brought the language out.
Oh
I talked
man,
about,
that's
don't flinch. Yeah,
that's
there
some
they are. There they are.
goosebumps.
So
Got
maybe
some
next
goose.
time he's gonna
Wow.
lean in instead of lean away. How's
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I feel like this is not something I really speak on, but just in reflecting on my past, it's the things I haven't done that I
Mhm.
regret, not the things I have done, right? The things you have done, you typically can, if you make a mistake, you can adjust, right, from there. But if you don't actually try it, then it's the
Hmm.
world of I never know, right? I never know if it was going to work. So there you go.
Well, we've had a good opportunity to kind of get to know you and your personality here, but I do have a few fun questions just to tease out some more. So hopefully you
Okay.
don't flinch on these questions, Jack.
Okay.
All right. This one, it feels a little bit cliche with you, but I really want to know if you could play any role in a movie, past or present, what would it be? Why? Like, what's your dream role, Jack?
Oh wow. Wow. I have to say that the movie I admire the most, now this is gonna put me in a box, I think. People are gonna be like, really? Jim Carrey doing The Grinch. I would love to have a go at that. I watch
Yeah.
that movie about 2.5 times a year during in December, right? And and just it's such a okay, it's never going to win an Academy Award, but it's
Hmm.
so freeing as an actor to do whatever you want. As a runner-up, I would love to be in any. I just watched the movie Unfrosted, which is the
Okay.
Jerry Seinfeld movie about Pop-Tarts,
Yeah.
and it's so ridiculous. Like that would have been a really fun movie to be in as well. Any character, because
Yeah.
um, there were no rules really, right? Like nobody was taking it seriously, and that's kind of that's
Uh-huh.
my space. Yeah.
That's your space.
Yeah.
Imagine that Jerry Seinfeld, a movie about nothing with no boundaries. Weird. What's the most surprising thing that people don't know about you?
Oh, wow. Well, the weirdest thing I think is that I met Bill Clinton in the White House, and he spent a half a day with Bill Clinton when I was in high school. There was a leadership program that I'm sure
Mhm.
many high school, maybe people watching this, were part of Boys State, which is like a mock
Hmm.
leadership thing.
Hey,
I
I'm a
was,
boy stater, man.
oh, you are.
I'm a boy stater. Yeah.
Oh,
It was
well,
so fun.
we'll talk after about what year. We won't age ourselves here, but I was lucky enough to be Boys State governor, and and
What,
I got
Jack,
to
what
go
if you
to.
were my boy state governor? Wouldn't that be a weird connection?
Well, should we say the year that it was,
Oh
or should
gosh,
we?
I'm not even sure I could recall it directly. I could give you probably an approximation.
Okay, okay.
Uh,
Well, I was lucky enough to do that, and then I got selected to go to Boys Nation. Now that's just a only 100, two from each state go, 100 kids go to DC, and it was near and dear to Bill Clinton's heart because many people know the picture of him and Kennedy shaking hands.
sure.
That was Boys Nation. And so he spent a lot of time with us, and we got to see him do his radio address when that was still a thing in the 90s, and I got a picture of him shaking hands, just very similar to him. As I thought I was next in line, but turns out my passion kind of changed for that. So I'm happy not to be involved in politics. I think that belongs on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. Of
Yeah.
course. It's the best house for it. It's the best platform. Last one. What's the one thing you can't live without when you're traveling for your speaking engagements?
Oh, well, the phone obviously is an easy one. I'm trying to think of things that would be very unique. I actually have a picture that my daughter drew for me that was just like it was like the first time that like I love daddy, like she was putting letters together kind I don't know, she was like 3 or 4 or
Yeah.
something, and that always is in the folder next to my introduction.
Oh,
um
that's great.
and so it's always in that bag, and it's just it's a great level set for me because I still get nervous. People ask me that. They're like, "Do you get nervous?" I'm like, "I hope I do," because the more nervous I am, the
Mhm.
usually the better I am because the excitement is just there.
Exactly.
And so it's a nice little level set when I'm feeling those nerves. I open that up to hand my intro to whoever's giving the introduction, and then there she is with that picture right there.
Ah,
So
that's
that's a
great.
must-have.
Well, let's kind of wrap this thing up here. Jack, this has been such an enlightening conversation. I really love speaking with you. I feel like we could hang out, look at baseball cards, do whatever we need to do just to hang out, right?
Yeah.
Top Tops 87, wood grain's the greatest baseball card of all time.
I agree,
Um,
100%.
Based on what we discussed today, what would you ask our listeners to do to take that first step towards the intangible it in their own lives or work environments?
Yeah, I think we kind of hit on a couple the main elements, but that first step is just the don't flinch. It really is that one thing, that one component that you can't you use that expression, you can't teach this, but you got to just be able to take that leap.
Love it.
And as an added bonus, and I can dive into it a little bit more when we get on stage, but I do talk a little bit about mystery. Is there some way you can be a little bit
Mm-hmm.
mysterious? Not in a weird way, but there's lots of ways we can have just a little bit of that. If you have those two components going at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, I think anybody will tell you who's ever had a successful relationship in their lives with the man or woman, just like where did that magic mix come from? Well, it came from just being a little mysterious
Mm-hmm.
and then having the guts to go for it, and I think that's true in our professional lives on a much different level, as well, that if we can have that little magic mix with our classrooms and get started, there we go. We're off to the races of having that intangible it.
Speaking of aging ourselves, the mystery, the ultimate mystery intrigue for me, Carmen Sandiego. Like,
Uh,
where is she? Where is she going? Who is she? We just never really found out.
Where in the world are you?
Where? Where? Thank you, Jack, for joining us today and sharing your insights on the intangible it and its significance and really the connection with education. I love your experiences. I love the tips that you gave us today. They're invaluable. To our listeners, remember to connect with us to book Jack for bookings or go find him yourself. Either way, yeah, whatever way you want to do it. To bring that unique, engaging perspective to your educational setting, your school, your conference. And then for the rest of you, thank you for tuning in to this episode of TalentED. Until next time, stay PKS, positive, kind, and supportive. Thanks, everybody.
And scene.